Welcome to Clock Tower. I'm Brandon here with Colton, and today we are playing the Dal versus Sword Art Online matchup. This is the Sword Art deck that's going to be coming out in just about a month or so, whereas I'm playing the new Dal list that I just previewed earlier on the channel this week. So kind of starting off, you're going first, Colton. However, I've a decent hand going into this. I've got at least 0 going in that I wanted, and now I have the center runner. So I have the power on field. I have blue and clock for Yoshino to try to deal with Alice. I'm pretty well looking ahead here at this kind of level 0 game.
Yeah, you're in a good spot. You've got pretty much everything you wanted. For my part, I am in a very similar spot. I opened a Cheery, which never feels bad to get some mill on the board. I eat a lot of damage there, but I anticipate I'm probably not just going to get sent right into 2. So I don't have enough stock, even though I'm at 1-0, to try to get the Alice play off. For those of you that maybe don't know, you're trying to get the level 1 Alice Brainstormer down, which then can summon the level 2 if you mill it off of its Brainstorm effect. That's the goal. You're trying to get 3 of those down if you can. I can't yet because I don't have the stock, but I'm in a position where I can at least field 3 attackers. So that's what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah, it's also still a little bit early in your deck yet, unless you had all of the mill pieces you wanted ready to go, and like the additional stockouts. You really wanted that extra turn at 0 to be able to just try to get that stock ready where you needed to go. So, yeah, no, I could definitely understand you trying to buy a turn here at 0.
Yeah, and I'm basically just treating this as my extra turn. I'm playing this basically as though I was 05 because I don't have any level 1s I'm trying to play anyway. The only level 1 that really matters is the Brainstormer, and I'm not just going to throw that down. But I've got a lot of mill, so like there's the mill 3 on the Asana. I've got another Cheery down if I want it. So I've got plenty of mill because I want to get to the point where I don't have a ton of cards in deck, so that Brainstormer can shove more Alice's back into the deck, so I can then spawn them out with the spammable Brainstormer.
Absolutely. I do go to 1 here.
And you're also on standby, so I know you're not just gonna push 7 damage right back at me.
Exactly. With that, so I'm looking here, a couple different options here. I want to pay out the CX that I just triggered. But at the same time, I also recognize you're already at 1. You're going, depending on how much damage sticks to you, you're going to be pretty close to 2. So I'm looking at the reality that it's a very good possibility you might hit 2. So as I'm going to go into this turn with standby, I'm looking for the pieces that are going to really help me with that. So I'm bringing out the 2/2 here. Just so that way I can have those kind of additional twin drive triggers going into this next turn. I trigger standby again here on the first swing. So I bring out the Yoshino, noting that I've just triggered standby, another way to try to help pay out some stock early, as well as potentially, depending on where you sit here at the end of this turn, be able to kind of spawn into Alice. And be able to kind of try to threaten Alice, at least if you don't get all the way into level 2.
Yeah, the standard swap Yoshino Bomb is actually super, super good into Alice. Because if I am at level 1, which normally, like, again, Dal's not going to push damage very often in the level 1 game. So expecting me to stay at 1 makes a lot of sense. You can bring on the Yoshino off the standby trigger or off just slamming that standby. And then from there, you can, like you said, threaten one of the 2-1 Alices, maybe open up a lane, threaten my plussing, because there's nothing really I can do about it. Like, I'm going to try to get 3 of those Alices down no matter what. So even if the Yoshino's on board, I'm not trying to play around it. It's just something I have to eat. However, I was able to mill enough, and because I clocked myself into 1/6, I actually am going to be able to make a play where I can get all of my Alices down while also putting myself into 2 and making Yoshino less important. However, to do that does end up costing me some compression. So that's the give and take there. If I if I was able to stay at 1 and I could have a little bit better compression, I would lose an Alice, but the twin drive on the 2/2 that I see down would be a little less scary. But as it is, I know I'm 2 out of 3 here, so I know I'm about to go back 5 out of 29, which does not feel great. But I am going to triple Alice, so I'm going to have a ton of resources, and hopefully I can grab a cancel next turn anyway, just to stay ahead in the damage race. But as it is, I'm clear.
Yeah, and when being able to push yourself into 2 here because it denies Yoshino at that point, it's more of, from my end, trying to save the 2/2 without having to remove hand. So I have a little bit more hand going into the next turn. So being able to kind of essentially one stock encore effectively my 2/2 here.
Yeah, like you still plused 3 when you triggered it off the standby, right? Like you still got the free card and you didn't have to pay the 2 stock to get it down. So paying 1 doesn't mitigate that plus at all. Because I was able to, when I refresh, send my whole clock into waiting room, I now have targets for my Alice. So I'm sitting on a full hand, lots of stock, in a pretty good spot overall. But I did hit 2 brainstorm, or I hit 2 CXs on that last brainstorm, so I'm still 5 out of 25. Hoping to find a cancel here somewhere.
Yeah, no, makes sense.
That's called foreshadowing.
Like being able to kind of go in here to get the. You're sitting pretty good here at the Alice board. So I don't have the 1/0 in hand. So I'm actually going to standby out for it. Only because I know that's my real out to Alice here. My board is a little bit on the short side. I'm hoping to trigger into a standby despite being out all 8. I'm still like on the hopes of like, maybe a miracle could happen. I have 9 climaxes, but really.
Well, the more important thing is that you have that back row that gives you power, right? Like that 1/0 in the back row gives you power. Every time you hit a soul trigger, you can give something 2,000 power, which is going to pump you over the memory kit counter that Alice always has in hand. Alice is sitting defensively right now at 10-5 because there's just one of the brainstormers down. You're going to swing in at 8-5.
Well,
right now?
Yeah, base 9 because of the 500 assist from the back row here, but I get an extra 1,000 or 2,000 per, so I'm sitting at 11 here, which would step over your Alice currently, or power tie it normally, so forcing the counter out of hand from you is not terrible here, especially because I'm already going to be low on power. Like, I was already going to lose the power game anyway, defensively here.
Because you triggered with the twin driving 2/2, you triggered 2 soul icons, you swung for 4, which stuck, and you swung for 13, which is over my backup range because it's only a 2k counter, and I'm only at 10-5 because I only have one of the back row Alices down. So you're able to get over that one. You don't get over the other, but like you said, you at least force out the backup. I'm trying to drop the early play heal just to get down to 3-0, thinking, okay, I'm probably not going to stick all of this. You're going to stay at level 2. And then, of course, I stick all of it. I was basically trying to prepare myself to have like one more, essentially one more turn of defense after this one.
Yeah.
You're just kind of hoping that, or I should say, yeah, like I was hoping that I would, not eat 7 this turn, because you'd be staying at level 2.
Yeah, and then kind of trying to limiting how much damage I could actually push out for sure.
Right, and you would have maybe like one of the 2 souls down, so it's like you're not going to push that much damage, but I push you into 3, and that gives you access to all of your pieces.
Mm-hmm. So I played on the Icy Tail here to be able to look at the top 3, rearrange them, and then be able to bounce. I want to keep the CX on top because I have the twin drive in the middle, so I can kind of pay out the climax, but also know I'm not going to like bury a climax with the twin drive here too. Because as much as like I have a good chance to stick a decent amount of damage on you. I'm also not very sure that I'm actually going to actually close you out here,
Right.
but I can at least sit defensively. With this, I can at least have 3 stock in play for the free fresh counter if needed. Right now, I'm like decently compressed my deck, so like I could actually do some. I actually could survive here. Being like 5 out of 14 is not too bad here. I'll be 4 out of what
Yep. And then
11,
yeah, well,
but
I just lost because all 3 of my CXs were in the bottom 4. So I eat 3 off the icy tail, and then eat another 3, including the refresh point, and that's just game. So I think that game went a little faster than most of these matchups are going to go. Alice is not compressed.
well, and the flip side of that is it can become compressed if it's able to loop its combo multiple times because it compresses through stock. Yeah.
Right, and that's where having the ability with both the Yoshino and the twin driving Tutu to get over and or clear those Alices, force the Alice player to recur them. It's not easy to recur Alice all the time, especially if Alice gets removed from board. You already have to get a choice trigger back into your hand, which is, not, there's nothing in the deck that does that other than there's like this top check, right? So you need to draw into a second CX, or play your top check 5 or your top check X to try to get into it that way. Maybe swap into it if you need. So it's not easy to loop Alice necessarily, because you need to get that second copy of the climax. But then, because Dal has defensive and offensive pieces that can clear Alice's off the board, it makes it that much more difficult. Dal has the tools to give Alice a hard time, and we saw that here. The extra power from the back row was really good. The extra twin drives, because you're pushing soul damage, and Alice oftentimes isn't compressed after that first combo. Like, it can be okay. Its compression can be fine, but it's certainly not, well compressed more often than not. So you can really soul rush them, stick that extra damage, and continue to push them, and actually out damage Alice, especially if you can get that 2-1 off the board. Because then, they have to focus their resources on getting the Alice itself back onto the board. You can make Alice's life difficult with Dal. I don't think Dal is top tier by any means. If anything, I think the 8 choice list might still be better positioned overall. But 8 standby's got some pieces, and it is probably more meta relevant than it has been since the initial Toka ban.
And that's it. That's been our gameplay video for the Data Live. We have the deck video for Data Live itself from earlier this week. We're going to be looking at Sword Art next month as we approach that release. But again, thanks so much for watching.
Also, don't forget, we did crack open a case of Data Live 2 with our friend Braden. That will be up on the channel when, Brandon?
It is already up.
So yeah, check that out. We did a case crack, opened some SPs. It was a good time if you want to see more of that. But like Brandon said, next time, we'll have a Clock Talk on Tuesday, and then the following week, we start really talking about Sword Art with a deck tech and a gameplay video. Until next time, thank you so much for joining us. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and have a good one.
We'll see you then.